And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. I'm the Bob with Sensei Al Bob. I am your sensei, your griot, here to tell you a story. And I'm right now being coffee boy at the coffee shop. Have a very nice, exquisite chocolate chip cookie. Look at that. And I've been eating this exquisite chocolate chip cookie for the last 30 minutes. Instead of stuffing my mouth with as many cookies as humanly possible. Experience with my homemade hand sanitizer. And when you experience food rather than just consume it in vast quantities of overindulgence and excess, you can appreciate it. And you don't have to gorge yourself or binge. You can, enjoy, experience, be part of, rather than try to fill that empty hole in your life. All those mistakes you made in your life, they should be appreciated, just like that chocolate chip cookie. For insight, for understanding, and for appreciation. And every experience in your life should be appreciated, even if it's uncomfortable. Right? I've been here in Roanoke since 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. Right? So that's November, December, January, February, like 4 months, 4.5 months. Today is the 6th or 7th. Right? And I was, iced in at Ice Station Zebra with Colonel Klink for the last 3 weeks. And that was interesting. And it was also, you have to realize, why did I come to Roanoke? Not because I wanted to be warm. I spent the last 3 winters out the deep green. I know I can do it. And the last winter there was worse. I was snowed in from Christmas Eve till Valentine's Day. And that was a long time. I was all by myself. And all I had to eat was what was in the woods and was covered by ice. Dandelion, burdock, other things I eat. I had to really kind of dig it up. But it made me appreciate it all that much more. And I had canned stuff. But I had no real refrigeration out there. But, it was like, 2 degrees below zero, so I didn't really need a refrigerator. I had, gotten some things before. Before the storm, and because there was a new neighbor, a young executive from Charlotte who rented a house because of the pandemic, was going to stay there. And I gave him, he was an interesting young man. He had a lot of gifts. His parents were wealthy. He went to the best of schools. He looked great on paper. and he had come to work for this company, real estate company. Um, he got there through nepotism. His father started the company, and but he got this job, and it was like the footstep before he was going to take over as his father, because the family had a tremendous amount of real estate in Charlotte, North Carolina, and his parents were from New York, right? And they had come from the Crucible. Their mother was Italian, and the father was Irish. But the genetic code, both parents were adopted. And their parents were also adopted. So the wearing blender of karma and genetic understanding was lost to them. So they, the man was about my age, his father's my age, and I'd gone off to Vietnam. And his older sister and brother kind of followed in their father's footsteps and joined the military. To get away from the father and to try and make something of their own life. But you join the army, you don't have your own life. And the son died, and the daughter got blown up and lost a limb. And this young kid felt guilty because his parents, by the time he rolled around, he was born in the 70s. No, 70s. No. Probably later. Probably 80s or 90s, because he's only 22. So he was born in the late 90s, I guess. So really good looking. Almost a A-list movie star. And so he would just drive on over my front lawn to go to this place where he was. He came one. I saw him come with a big U-Haul truck, right, in the February of 220, and he stayed there a week or two. Never came down. Never visited. And one day, all the way, I saw him and another guy in camo sneaking around the forest, and they had ARs. So, they went to the forest. They could going to a place where they had to go up a hill and come down. So that was kind of where my spiritual retreat is. Which, just like the hill above the school, there's this path that lays on a ley line that the Cherokee found to be one of their most sacred areas of ceremony. And there is a similar sacred patch in deep green. And I have a nice little temple up there. I have a nice tarp up and hammocks that people can lie down and meditate. And And I would find them there reading a book because I knew they were going to show up sooner or later. And they did. They came up over this hill, and there I was. In a hammock, reading the book. It was a beautiful sunny day. The sun was hitting me, and I was glowing. And they were in the shade of the trees, like trying to like sneak on by. They said, "Yo, boys, come on in." And they were like, and so I had them come. They came in. I said, "Leave your weapons outside the door. This is a shamanic sacred space." And they did, they leaned there, I said, put your, take the cartridge out. If you have a shell in the chamber, take that out. And whatever handguns you have, leave them out there. There's a rock right there. Lean your ARs against the rock, unloaded, and your handguns similarly placed. And they did. I said, here, lie down in the hammock, which I did. And then I said, so tell me about yourself, right? And so the blonde, the A-lister, the good-looking one, but the dark-haired one was good-looking too. But blonde was tall. He was probably 6'1" or 2", and the dark-haired one was maybe 5'10" or 11", right? That was an inch or two shorter. And the dark-haired one had a military look, right? He had longer hair. He didn't have short hair, but his musculature was in a state that he looked military. And his aura was that of a person who's on his 20 with his 360. But I listened. And they were very superficial about Jenny, about their presence. I'm just going, And the military one was working at a company in Charlotte, an aviation company. He was servicing Apache helicopters, their avionics. And the other guy was working in a investment bank. And so I had nothing known about them. And I'm in my hammock and they're in their hammocks. And I say to the military guy, how much are your palm? Hand your weapon. Puts it up. I give him a stone cold reading. I blow his mind. I tell him everything about him. That he was a military guy, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, how did you know about him? I said, well, I knew that you were in the military by your build, by your carry as you walk through the woods. Your friend there was making enough noise to be an elephant. You were very stealthy. And look where you're working. You're working on a very sophisticated helicopter. And you're a civilian at this time, but you're not. And you have been doing that job for the last 5 or 6 years. And I went on about their relationship together, who and what they were, and he came from. All the above. And I turned to the blonde guy, told him the same thing about his family, having no idea, knowing who they were. That he had no idea who he was, and that he was just, at the age of 26, he was working no longer in his father's business because he had issues with his father. He did a good job, and that job got him another job in banking, which then got him a job in investment banking. And now he's making over $100,000 a year. And he doesn't really like it. He keeps getting raises because he becomes more and more valued, and all of this stress, especially his friend, and a few of his friends died. His brother died in Iraq, in Fallujah, and his sister got blown up in Afghanistan in a bombing. She was more a diplomat than she was a soldier, but she was more a diplomat. They have to realize in our government, about 60% of everything the government does has to do with the military-industrial complex. The State Department is a military sphere. The Energy Department is in charge of building and storing and utilizing nuclear weapons. The EPA is like a form or an element of the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is even a part of the government. It's a privately held stockhold company. So anyway, I say, okay, guys, you want to know how to, let's meditate. Oh, I can't meditate. Oh, I think you can. So I put them straight into.
Those are delicious cakes. And you make perfect eggs.
Yeah, Mr. Moon is the man. He is the dude of food.
No.
Did you have his chocolate chip cookie?
No, we got bagels and bear claws.
You should get one of his cookies.
Yes. Yeah, she can have it. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we'll be back.
Yeah, we're gonna come back. Yeah,
I've been wanting to come
she's
over
been wanting
here.
to come here. She said, let's go try it. I said, no. I love it. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
No, we
Hey, Francis, can I have a little more coffee, please? More coffee. Arr, 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 arr. And maybe another one of those chocolate chip cookies. Yummy chocolate chip cookies. Really good chocolate chip cookies. Two will balance the day, One chocolate chip cookie on this side, one on this one, and breakfast in the middle. And coffee. Francis, you still have good coffee.
Thank you.
Yes. No milk. Just black. But chocolate chip cookie, though.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Chocolate chip cookie. Looks like an asteroid. Francis, you doing okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You remembering to breathe?
Good.
You remembering to breathe? Breathe.
Yeah.
As long as you keep breathing, you'll be
problem.
no problem. So, young man, one's working on one of the most sophisticated weapon systems. You have to realize the Apache helicopter was designed to fight tanks, but it will be amazingly viable going after civilians. Right? Hellfire missiles, woo-wee. What's happening in Ottawa right now? Trudeau. He's just another window dressing poster boy of the corporate elite. Eddie, good to see you, my man. Jane and Eddie. Remember, kids, sooner rather than later, I will be leaving Roanoke, and soon not to really come back much. Right? I'm like tying up all the strings here. And this place was giving me the opportunity to have access to the internet and talk to you, right? In this very important time. Otherwise, like this morning, I was accosted. I was leaving, and then, so I was taking the garbage down, and because it needed to be taken down. I mean, so John said, "I'll give you money." I don't. I said, "Sure, well, I'll be good. Nice, nice." And and then he accused me of infecting him with bat dust through my psychic aura. And we were outside. We weren't inside a place. What have you been burning? I said, nothing. Because he screamed at me about, like spitting his food and giving him, making him feel bad. I mean, doesn't realize that he's feeling bad because, the day before he screamed at me, and wanted me to die. And his sister called up, and he couldn't talk to her, so I talked to her, and I was nice to her and saying that she was doing great, and then. I want you to die. So poor John is really. I've spent the last month trying to give him the opportunity to be what he could be. James P7, you in restaurant Roanoke. Yep. One of the last good ones left. Right? Everything else. I've been away from here for 3 years, and John's not the only person I've been helping. And I've been here 20 years, and I was here because Roanoke is the statistical demographic microcosm of the United States. And I used to get paid to look at trends. I used to travel around different cities and look at things. But I didn't once I realized that this place was the demographic microcosm. It was like, I don't have to go anywhere. And I bought a bunch of buildings in Roanoke City for nothing. And then rented them out, had a nice fluid rent roll. Being a landlord is one of the most fluid, money flows you can have, but there are issues because you have to deal with people and what they do to the place. And what I found was, so I bought all these houses from a guy. I bought them in 2001 after 9/11 because he came from
You
New
called?
York,
No, I did not.
and
I just want to get some bagels.
they have really good bagels here. And it's just, when he makes a cook it, he looks like he's Belgian. When he's making bagels, he looks like he's a husband too. When he's making,
How you
croissant,
been, Linda?
he's wearing a beret.
Good.
Maybe you can get me
Stay away.
Just the one.
Well, this is true, but John's my friend, and I don't give up on my friends. And acquaintances, I can move on without a bat of an eye. But right now, because everything has been in, return, Saturn return, Mercury return, retrograde, everything has been either standing still or going backwards. And right now, it's loosening up, and we're going to have quite the expansive situation. And earlier on, back at in December, when we had winter solstice, I was telling everyone, hey, this is important. You should be meditating. You should be visualizing. You should be clearing your space. And good night, Antonio. Yeah. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei, El Bob. And all February is my birthday. I don't celebrate just one day. The one day I do celebrate, I celebrate it with my mother for giving me birth. But otherwise, every day is my birthday. It's my birthday. It's my birthday, and every day is Christmas. Happy birthday, Jesus Christ. Now, none of those linear dates mean anything,
Come on, your husband.
but
Go ahead.
energetics of joy and happiness is all that matters.
Okay,
The magic sound.
that's it.
That's it. The magic sound.
Yeah. No ketchup.
Ah,
Let us tomato meat.
hey, Lana.
Yeah.
So soon I shall be
Yeah.
going on, and my phone is dying. I don't have any cash to fix anything. To make my phone work, I have to hold it in my hand and energetically bring it back to life. Good practice. And everyone can do that. The whole thing with Jesus and the wine, everyone can do that. Everyone can. There's a great book called Course in Miracles. You should check that out. We are, a work in progress. We are love's co-creation. The only thing that gets in our way is our fear, anger, self-loathing. And those are illusions. So if you put unconditional love in your heart, everything works out. And whatever obstacles, they're an opportunity to understand, right? That's what they're given to us for. So in a week or two, I will head back to the Deep Green, and there is no internet there. There is, 40 miles to the closest, phone signal, and you guys can leave any message on my internet. My Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And it would be really great if you could put some money in my PayPal, because I spent a lot of cash on John, and just because I don't even know I know he's spending lots of money ordering stuff from Kroger and from Amazon and whatever, and I have no idea. But I mean, all I know is the first time he did that while I was there was 2 days after I got there, and they put everything like in the kitchen where I'm at, and I could see what he got, which was, the only vegetable he got was one of those little party trays about that big of celery and carrots that were like genetically engineered, and that carrot tasted like a shoe, and the ranch dressing tasted like some synthetic glue, and he got some blueberries. That was pretty good, but that was one pack. But he got about $500 worth of stuff, just bag after bag after bag, and most of it was nothing like what I get, which is green.
2 eggs and bacon on a bagel. The cheddar cheese.
I get collards and spinach and organic, because it needs to be organic, so I get organic,
Yes, sir.
and
Okay.
and that's it, and rice and potatoes and onions, and that's what I get, and before the snowstorm 3 weeks ago, I got $200 worth, and that was the last of my large days. So if you could put something in PayPal, that would really be good, especially going back to the Deep Green.
Did you call?
That would be really, really, really good, right? So I hope you enjoyed my show in these last weeks. And as long as I have access, like, there's this place and other places that I go, have the internet, I will continue to do a show like this, right? But right now, the world has been in a real flux since the winter solstice. And it was really, if you could have, and still can, you still have the opportunity until April Fool's Day, to meditate your conscious intent and your conscious awareness. And why don't we, just to show you how it works, meditate right here and right now. And again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei, Bob. Your griot here to tell you a story. And, you know,
Thank you.
I want you to sit in a comfortable place. Don't cross anything. Don't cross your legs. Don't cross your fingers. Don't cross your eyes. And breathe deep in through your nose and out through your mouth.
Number.
And in every day and every way, take the peace of the earth and fill your lungs with that prana. Energize every cell of your body. Cleanse. You can keep yourself from getting sick. Drink a lot of water. Take your vitamins. Vitamin C is amazing. Vitamin D3, K, kelp, magnesium, garlic. And if you have them in your diet, it's also very good. And if you eat sour greens, kale, spinach, escarole, stay away from tomatoes and eggplant. Stay away from whole wheat, because anything with lectins, they're like little razor blades for your colon, right? And they, make very small little slits, and then all that crap goes into your bloodstream. And if you get that, and then it can cause a cascade response with cortisol and adrenaline and your fight and flight motif. And when the planets are in retrograde like the way they are, there is a good thing about retrograde, because it gives you the opportunity, if you can be in your conscious intent, conscious intent to do your best. Not to try, but do your best. And not to worry, because you're not perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Just do your best. The thought that you are perfect, that you are entitled because you're perfect, that you are special because you're perfect, that is the quickest way to walk off the cliff, right? So
22, 23.
if you can just breathe in that photonic light and get yourself in a place where you can illuminate yourself with love's co-creation. Now that is scalar energy, So this incandescent light, the light above me is incandescent, even though it's fluorescent. There's a shadow. Photonic light, not much of a shadow, but it's very bright. It's the light. Oh, I'm a light worker. Well, who was the original light worker? Let's say Lucifer, the illuminated one, right? So that is, and he's the guy who gave us free will, right? Who basically made us mud puppets. Before, we were the Garden of Eden, and we were, like innocent children. And, that's what I am. I'm an innocent child. Let's see what we're saying, Anthony. Cute. Let's see. Anyone help me understand why you are spending money on him? Because, hey, I need to eat. When I cook, I'm not going to say, no, you can't eat what I am having. No, not that way. I share everything I have. So I need to eat, and I need to eat healthy. He needs to eat healthy, but, he constantly is blaming me that I'm spitting in his food, or I burnt it, or I'm poisoning him. But I eat the same food he does. Now, since I've been there, I've lost 2 pounds, and he has gained 20. And so, if he would to just eat what I eat and the way I eat 4 little meals a day, right? And I eat my first meal about an hour and a half after I wake up, because I have to meditate to be able to move around for about 40 minutes. And then, I have a small meal. And then I go on and do whatever I'm going to do. And then around 1 o'clock, I have a small meal. Around 3 o'clock, I have another small meal. And around 5 o'clock, I have another small meal. And then I don't eat anything, period. Now, if I feel a little hungry, I'll eat a little fennel, or I'll eat a little cheese. I always have refried beans that I'm making. I'm constantly making refried beans, and I can have a little plate of refried beans. But I don't eat anything 2 hours before I go to sleep, and I drink a large glass of water before I go to sleep. And that flushes my body out. And at 3 in the morning, I wake up, take a piss, and by that time, my psyche has gone to a alpha state, to the beta state, gamma state, and I, lie back in bed, think about what I want to dream, and bang, I have a vivid, uh, self-motivated dream, right? And so that's how I roll, right? And I pray for all of the world, right? And every day, I enjoy every exquisite moment of my life. Right now, I'm enjoying talking to all of you, appreciating all of you. I'm not really, I'm kind of reading what you're saying, but I'm speaking to you to bring forth your best. And John, like I said, I don't give up on my friends. But, before I said, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, expect a different outcome, right, is the definition of crazy.
Yes.
Right? So, the last 7 years, I've attempted to do my best with John, and he pretty much stays in the same place, saying the same thing over and over again. It's his laundry list, his loop. And I haven't been able to break him out of it. And so, why I haven't been around for 3 years, even though he, texts me just unbelievably. I have every text and every email that he sent because everything in my phone goes up to the cloud. So all of John's everything is in the cloud.
Oh, you want a bacon?
And so I pretty much have every email and every message he sent me since 2015, and so it's a documentation of John, right? So, and I'm an anthropologist, and when you're doing ethnography, you do your best to the point
Thank you, sir.
of keep going, moving forward, getting every ounce of truth out of it. So after this, and that's why I came back and spent so much time in the last few months here in Roanoke, was to, because John's not the only one. There are a whole bunch of people here who I've helped, and organizations that I helped put together, right? And they still want me to write grants for them, blah, blah, blah. And, before I came to John's, I went and visited all of them and said, so let's see what you're doing. Well, you're doing the same thing you did 4 years ago. You haven't changed. When we put this together, there was a mission statement and a expectation line, and you're still at the beginning. So I pretty much told everyone, I love you, but that's about it. You want to come and visit, that's fine. You want to go on a road trip, that's great. But I'm not coming to fix anything anymore. I'm stopping to be Mr. Fix It, at least in Roanoke. So that was my purpose to come to Roanoke, to tie all the loose ends up. Because you kind of have to, because if you leave, loose ends are always drawn back into it. So that's why, and like I said, I don't give up my friends. Now, when I leave here in a week or so, and go, and I might even go, John comes, we came here just to be warm, I'm paying for you. Well, that's not true. If I wanted to be warm, I would have gone to Florida. I have loads of friends there that I could, they have the Al Bob Memorial Temple waiting for me, so, because this ain't the only place that I've come to, I spent 28 years taking care of my folks, and I had another life in Florida because whenever my parents would be their crappy self, I would know it about a week before. And I just had breakfast when they were like, before they got really crappy. I would say, well, I'm going to be gone. See you later. Bye. And I just get in the car. I'd already packed it. Just drive away. And I would stay away weeks on end. Because I would get into something like one of those times. I drove,
6 sun, 3
and they didn't even know I had a house in Stewart, 30 miles from them. And I just went to my house. Every time I do that, and they didn't know I had a place down in the Keys. I never told them where I was going because every time I did, here's a good story. In Florida, because people are so dysfunctional, they don't, and they're like, everyone's running away from something in Florida who wasn't born there. And even those people are running away from something because it's in their lineage. And the desecration of the indigenous people in Florida was so, because there are places in Florida that have, one of the reasons why the house I got in both the places, in the Keys and in Stewart, is that they were ancient old houses, and they were a place where Indians had their sacred, both were sacred places where they fished. I mean, I'm not a fisherman. I used to live in a country called Tortola in the West Indies. And my girlfriend, her name was Scar, and she could just throw a line in there, with a needle, like a safety pin, and she'd catch a fish. Me, she put me on the side of the dock of the bay, and I'd never catch a fish. She'd come by, throw the safety pin in, catch a gigantic fish. She was amazing with fishing. Me, not so much. The fish come up and talk to me, but they don't bite, right? So, February is my birthday. Yeah. I celebrate it year round, right? So any specific date is irrelevant. The experience of a birthday, the celebration, the party is 24/7, 365. So I have no specific birthday. I'm here to party. So the two places I had in Florida were super duper, virtually the last, my whole life. Every place I've ever lived has been a sacred ground of an indigenous person. And even when I was out in the Four Corners, in a nuclear mine, the Mount Taylor Reserve, the world's deepest, largest, nastiest uranium mine in the world, which just happened to be the Hopi's most sacred place. They were just drilling right into the Hopis, they called it the snake goddess. That's what it translated from Hopi into. And, I was there for about 3 months, and it was like I nearly died 3 times. Once with a truck, nearly a gigantic truck, the size of a house. I had a little pickup truck. I went to the engineering shack, and because I was setting all these transformers everywhere, and the way it was designed was, and I just kept going to those engineers saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And that's, look, well, this was designed, by in the home office. We got it. It's like, guys who are, mercantile merchants of what's right. I said, no, well, I'll do it the way it's planned, but it won't work. And, they didn't care whether it was going to blow up or cost them millions of dollars. They didn't care because the people back in the home office didn't care. And anyway, so I went to that, and I drove. They gave me this little pickup truck because the site was 20 square miles out in the middle of the desert in the Four Corners. And I'm driving around, and I drive into this parking lot that has big, like those orange fences, like plasticky fences, and these big, like 20-foot tall fiberglass poles every 5 feet with a super gigantic orange flag on it, because these big dump trucks the size of a house were driving all over the place. And this is a place they were not supposed, the road coming up to it, they weren't supposed to be on. They weren't supposed to drive into this parking lot because, they couldn't. And I get, I'm kind of agitated. I want to talk to this engineer. I drive up, park, I get out, I walk 5 steps, and I hear a tremendous crash. I look back, and this big, gigantic dump truck the size of a house had just backed up over my pickup truck. If I had stopped, if I had been smoking a cigarette or drinking a cup of coffee or picking my nose, I would have been dead because it flattened like a pancake, right? And then exploded, and it set the big, $400,000, truck on fire. And instead of like turning, putting it in park and turning the motor off and trying to put out the fire, the guy just jumped out of the vehicle and ran away. And the vehicle went down the hill on fire and smashed into a bunch of, storage trailers that caught fire and probably caused $500,000 damage, right? And a bunch of people got hurt, and I almost died, right? And then a week later, I got my first real paycheck, and we went into Grants, and the Grants was a town of trailers. The bank was a trailer. If you want to rob the bank, all I had to do is hook your pickup truck up to the trailer and drive away with it, right? And it had, on payday, it had a lot of money. That's all these different uranium mines paid people all up on Thursday. The big armored truck comes on Wednesday, and, close to $3 million was divvied out to the 5,000 guys who are working on all these mines. And, I went there on my first paycheck, and I went and I want to start a checking account. And I already have an account at this other bank, and I want to have another account that's not part of that bank. And they go, well, thank you for choosing, Southwestern, blah, blah, blah. And I said, great. So she looked at my credit rating. It was like off the chart. And she goes, no problem. I gave her my check. It was for $4,000 because I had been working for 3 weeks without, that was my first paycheck. And she goes, oh, so she's happy. She like gives me a checking thing and gives me a credit card. And he said, she goes, and because you're going to put so much money in, we can give you, and this is what's pretty high. She goes, we can give you a bank, whatever they call it, when you invest, for X amount of time, bond, and so she goes, we have this special, for someone just like you who's starting an account and putting a lot of money into that, and is going to put more money into it, we're going to give you, we're not give you, but sell you, if you take, you're putting $3,000 into our account, keep 1,000 in this account and take the 2,000 and buy 2,000 of these bonds and 30% interest with a rollover cap of another 50%. So if you keep these, if you put $2,000 in and you keep it in for a year and a half, you will make $20,000. I go, good. I said, is there anything like my next paycheck I can put more in and it still gives me oh yes, we can set you up with that program. Or we come with that, you put this, you can, if you do that, if you keep putting at least $1,000 in, that was like the bare minimum, you walk out in a year and a half with at least $100,000. I said, great, let's set that up. Right. So I do. And so, I put that in. I get my little credit card. She goes, no, it's working now. I said, okay. And I said, give me $200. So I put, 2 Benjamins in my pocket. And the guys I came with, this, they were in my crew, and they weren't my crew. I was the youngest one, even though I was the engineer of this crew, and they were just, cowboy junkie linemen. They just treated me like crap. And so we had these lineman coats where like basically sheep killed, skinned, turned inside out, and the furriness of the goat or lamb or whatever it was, sheep, was on the inside. And it had this kind of zipper and then a flap that you buttoned over here and a hood. And man, that thing was warmer than warm. And the skin part, the internal skin was like armor, And so it was really a great coat. I wish I had that coat today. It was like indestructible. Anyway, but it was heavy. It was like weighing like a sheep. so, so anyway, I, go to the bank, do that, and I basically take the 2 Benjamins in that cart and put it in my pocket and my wallet and my big coat, because the coat had this pockets on the inside that had zippers. So I stuck my wallet in there, put that, and threw it in the car. And a van, it was a van. And when I came in, the guys were at the bar just knocking it down, right? And I looked around, and this place was the only building in town, big building, gas station, truck stop, garage. Walk in, it's a bar, it's a stage, the titty dancers up there, bar, big long bar here. Go further back, it was kind of tables in a restaurant. The kitchen was back there, and over here was like the shopping mall, right? And there was a cowboy store and a kind of truck stop, everything store, and there was a place that was like a barber shop, and you could get a shower, and I hadn't taken a shower in 2 weeks because when we got there was not any privacy. We all about 80 of us lived in a like garage on bunks on a concrete floor, and there was over in the corner a slit trench urinal and showers, but no walls, no privacy, no nothing, and toilets right there. It was one step above a prison, and we were getting paid well. But all these, you could drink all you wanted. People were shooting heroin. They were masturbating right in plain sight. You'd be there with 80 guys and like look over there, and there's a guy whacking off, and guys doing it together. I mean, it was like, and they were like Romans. They didn't consider themselves gay. So man's got to do what a man's got to do. It was one of the more interesting, almost like hell places. So, anyone like John, it's either like his, worst nightmare or. But anyway, so we're in this place, and so I go, okay, so I go into the cowboy shop, right? And I get myself cowboy jeans and a cowboy shirt and a cowboy hat, and they had Tony Lama boots that are, individually made. But when people don't pick them up, instead of the $800 boot, you can buy a pair of Tony Lamas, and you try them on, and they fit you better than anything you get at a shoe store, And so I bought myself a pair of Tony Lama boots, and I kind of took all my work clothes and rolled them up in a ball and put them in a bag. I got like a duffel bag, and put that in there, put some other stuff. And then I went and basically took all my, I was wearing that stuff, and I went into the barber shop, and I had them cut me, shave me, clip me, and then they had showers, really nice showers. Took a nice shower, and they had baths. I like soaked in the bathtub, and I took, put my cowboy clothes on, and had a nice coat, a nice coat, a coat that would keep you relatively warm from going to a car to someplace. Not like the lineman coat, like the sheep. And I, ran from one place to the other, and got all cleaned up. And when I went back out to the restaurant, the guys were so they had been knocking it back for at least a good hour, and I sat down in the restaurant and had myself they had a nice steak and nice vegetables and nice, baked potato and nice freshly baked bread. And I sat there, and all these girls started coming. Hi, you look so cute in your cowboy outfit, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and this is how innocent I am. I don't realize that these girls were prostitutes. I think that they're just girls from town that find me interesting. And they talk to me, and we talk, and they, and at a certain point they go, listen, honey, unless you want to, you want to date, we have to move on. And I look around and said, who, what? And so they go, we're prostitutes, $20 for a blowjob. That's just, they knew these guys had money. So, normally they'd be doing tricks for like $5. And no, I thought you were just a nice girl. And you know what nice girls are in Roman, and the Roman centurions coined the phrase, "She's a nice girl." You know what that means? It means they'll give you a blowjob just for smiling at them and maybe give them a chocolate bar. So anyway, by the time that all happens and they leave, and they clean my thing, and I'm sitting there watching the titty dancer, and I got my nice little Irish whiskey and a cup of coffee. This guy comes over and is chuckling, and I go, oh, "What's funny?" He goes, "You know those guys you came with?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Look at the bar." Well, they were gone because they left about a half an hour ago. And he goes, "I assume you guys are from the Mount Taylor project. You're the only guys who live on camp," and that's what they call the mine site, the campus. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "They left you here." And this is middle of February, colder than the coldest place I've ever been is the New Mexico desert, right? And I'm like freaking out because I'm wearing these cowboy clothes and, like a little thin coat, and my wallet's in a freaking van. And so he goes, "Don't worry about it. You can sleep on my couch, and you got your work clothes, your work boots. Just put those on. I'll give you a stronger coat. And you can take." And they had a school bus that went from town to drop people off at all the mines. And so I did, went back to his place, went to sleep. We, woke up, we got on the bus, and I get to work on time. The bus dropped me off at the site. I walked into this big building that we would all gather at, and it was like very militarized. They give us what we're going to do that day. And I show up, and the supervisor at that level was a black guy, right? And I went up to him, and he's got his clipboard, and he's looking at it. And I tap on the shoulder. He turns around, and he goes this. And he's a black guy, a real black guy, really black. He turns white and faints. And I catch him because otherwise his head's going to hit the concrete floor like a melon. And I catch him, I put him down on the floor, and people come around and seeing if he'd had a heart attack or what. And he wakes up and goes, "It's a ghost! It's a ghost!" And the guy looks at the clipboard, looks up at me, and the first thing on the clipboard is this note from the highway patrol that there was a car accident of a van that was coming down, State Road 42, which is a road out towards all the uranium mines, and they big flat straight road, very wide, and you can park equipment there. So all these mines are kind of up in the hills. So big tractor trailers of equipment. If they don't have a spot for them up there, they just leave them at the side of the road, and when they need them, they bring them up there. Because the only people going up and down this road is stuff going to the mines or people working in the mines. So, and it's a very wide road. So these morons were so drunk, they were flying down this road, probably doing 80 or 90 in a van, and they went right into the back of one of these gigantic, dump trucks that are the size of a house, right in the back, and were squished, and they, blew up, and it was such a violent explosion that there was no real fire. It just blew the whole thing up, parts and bodies and everything was all over the place, and the only way they could figure out who was by their coats and their wallets. The coats and my coat and my wallet was in that van, and so I was on the list of dead guys. So between the big truck running over my pickup truck and missing, killing me by inches, and all of those guys, me being on the clipboard as dead, my nickname there was the dead guy, and everyone started to calling me the dead guy, and then they started to gamble on when I would die, because within a few days of that, I was sent down into one of the tunnels, and the safety board, when you go down in the big elevator, you get a little pin, right? Safety pin, and got a little number on it, right? And that number is on the board. And unless there are two little pins on that board, there's only one. That means somebody's down in the hole. And so I had my little pin on, but I'm working down on a transformer, and I hear, which means you're going to blow something up down there. And when they do that, they take everyone out because the concussion of that explosion, because it's not outdoors, just the force of the concussive wave can kill you, right? And so, and I look over and it says, emergency phone. I pick this red phone up, and it's like receiver going down to this body where the phone was. I pick it up, and it falls off the wall, and it falls on the floor, and there's the red phone, and there's a curly wire going up to receiver, and then another wire going up to nothing. It's just end of the wire. So it's not connected to anything. It's just there. It looks good. The sign says emergency phone, but it's not connected to anything. And then there's like a fire alarm. I pull back, nothing happens. So I'm like, oh man, I'm fucked, because I realize there's nobody there. And if there's nobody there, that means they all went up in the elevator. And if they all went up in the elevator and that thing's going, means there's no elevator for me to come and for me to push the elevator button, which I run over and do. There is no jingle up at the top of the elevator, like 900 feet up. And no one's coming down, and there's still, the thing is still going, and it's doing it faster and faster. So I know I have about 10 minutes before they blow something up, and I'm just going to be dead. And, whoever bet on this day at this time, they'll win, 1,000 guys putting $20 in every day. So, and it had been like a week, so 1,000 guys, like $20, over a week. That's a lot of money. So I'm looking around, and I see these pallets of concrete bags. So my drone's going pretty good. So I start, and I'm in pretty good shape. I start making a little shelter for myself of concrete bags. And I get inside that, and I take my shirt off and wrap it around my head to protect my head and my eyes. And I hunker down, and I have one of my, I got a new one of those sheep coats, and I put it right over me, and I get in a fetal position to protect myself. And, meaning they're about to blow it up, and boom, right? And the ringing in my, even though I wrap my head, and I have this thing over there, concussive force in this ear, in this eye. And so, when I come back awake, I kind of, take everything off, and I'm looking for, see if there's any blood, if there's anything coming out of my nose, out of my ears, out of my eyes. And no, but this was still ringing, and it still rings today from that day. And so when people go on and on and on about how they suffer, the man who's the canary in the coal mine. I wasn't just a canary in the coal mine. I was a dead guy in the coal mine, the uranium mine. Anyway, they come down, and I come out of my little shelter, and all of the bags outside are ripped to shreds from the concussive force and the rock that was flying, right? And if I had been out in the open, that would have been it for me. I would have looked like those bags. They were just torn up. And so all that concrete, it was just concrete, right? It was from a gunite machine. And so I looked like an albino because I had wrapped all my stuff around my head and I had a coat over me. The dust was like I was like whiter than white for a long time. And anyway, they came down and found me, and they couldn't believe I was still alive. And they came up, and I had been telling my boss, "Get me out of here." And so he said, "No, you got to stay there. You got to stay there. They're paying me more for you than anywhere else." He goes, "But I'm going to send you to Los Altos. I'm going to send you to just finish those transformers." So I said, "Okay." So it was like totally, God, what am I doing here? And these guys are shooting heroin right there in plain sight and masturbating in front of everyone and having sex with each other. It's like, and they're not gay. I'm not gay. You want a butt plug? No. I like your mouth. So I just love it when people complain about things. They do not know, how good they got it. Mommy and daddy's paying their bills. I'm not going to pay my bills. Mommy and daddy's paying your bills. You remember, I worked so hard. Oh, I've been working hard every day, like for 12 hours. I've been here almost a month. Kind of the only person watching the floor is me. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you learn from these experiences, and I have learned, right? So, I mean, being in this place was like being in hell, right? But I was getting paid really well. If I could survive it, it was going to be okay. And that's how I looked at it. And I was working on things, technologies, industrial sites. I was getting a lot of experience because after 3 weeks, all those engineer guys were like, this guy really knows what he's doing. So my boss sent a crew of Mexicans who everyone treated like crap. And we decided to take over one of the engineering buildings and make it, instead of sleeping with those morons, because it had a bathroom in it, because engineers were going to be in it. So it actually had a bathroom, really nice bathroom. So we kind of moved in there, right? We moved the bunks into there and had our own place. So that was much better than, so once those Mexican guys showed up, it was all right. And I spoke a little Spanish. They spoke much more English. We got along great. They really, really liked me to be the intermediate between the crazy white people. So that was good. And, these guys were watching my back until they showed up, and nobody would watch my back. And people were betting on when I was going to die. And, it's very, to have your nickname as the dead guy. Anyway, so, but before those guys showed up, one night, a spring, and in the desert, it's like super cold and then hot, super cold and then hot, super cold. And then at one point, it's like a light switch. The evenings aren't that super cold. They're now, instead of 20 degrees below zero, now they're 30. And then a couple of days later, they're 40 at night. It's like, when you've been shivering at 20 degrees below zero every night, and now it's 40, it's like going to the Caribbean. So, bottom line, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Bob. And remember, if you want to get a hold of me, be dudewake42 at Gmail. Dudewake42 at Gmail. Dudewake42 at Gmail. Hey, Mrs. Moon. Mrs. Moon, can I have a little more coffee?
Jag får ta kaffe. Sitt inte bara.
And so the bottom line is thank you, Mrs. Moon. So one night, it was a clear night. It was 40s. The stars, I'd never seen the stars. And you have to realize this site was like Close Encounters, top of that mountain. It was like lit up brighter than a football field, 24/7. They had 3 shifts going on nonstop, right? So one night I just couldn't take it. This is before my cadre showed up, and my Hispanic brothers. And so they all came from Mexico. We were all city boys. They came from Mexico City. So anyway, one night I just said, "Fuck this," and I, walked out of the gate, walked around the backside of, Mount Taylor. It was like night and day. This was all brightly lit. As soon as I got around the corner, it was darker and darker. And and it was a mesa that just went on 40 miles this way, 20 miles that way, right? And over here, there are a few little lights of some houses that live between here and Grants. And so there was just a little twinkling of light, it wasn't like lighting up anything. And there was no moon, it was just stars. And I'd never seen stars like that. It's like Vincent van Gogh's Starry, Starry Night. And I just kind of I'm stumbling over the whole thing is sagebrush everywhere, right? The smell of sage is like, and I was walking and walking and walking, and I smoked a bit, and I had a lighter in my pocket, and I broke off one of these sage brushes and just lit it up, and it was like smudging myself, and just the smell of burning sage, and I was just walking and walking and walking, and then all of a sudden, boom! I fall over, and I hear this guy, "Get off me! Get off me! Get off me!" And there's this little guy underneath me, right? And I'm like, "What is going on?" And it was this little guy, and I get up and I pick him up. He goes, "Why not?" He starts screaming at me, and then he stops and he looks me up and down. He goes, "You work at that mine, don't you? At Mount Taylor?" I go. He goes, "You can't take it, can you?" He goes, "Look around you." He goes, "This is Mount Taylor." He says what the name of the mesa is in Hopi, and he goes, "It's 40 miles this way, 20 miles that way. See those little twinkling lights? One of those is my house." And I just walked out here, right? And I was just looking up at the stars. And you and I were the only two human beings walking in an 80 square mile area. And you fell on top of me. Do you know what the odds are of that happening? And I said, "Pretty astronomical." And he goes, "That's right. It is meant to be." He goes, "My name is Grandfather David. I am an elder of the Hopi tribe. I am the keeper of the Hopi prophecies. And the great maker has brought you to me. I've been praying for a student. And as long as you're here, you don't have to live there anymore. You can live with me. I have a trailer." So he goes, "Come with me." So we walk about 10 miles to his house, talking the whole time. He's telling me stories. He goes, "I'm a griot. I enlighten people through stories." So he's like telling me stories about all the animals, and he's giving me the shamanic frame, right? All my relations. Now I've heard this before, but not from Grandfather David, the keeper of the Hopi prophecies, right? And so, we go to his, and he's got a nice little 1950s Airstream trailer. He goes, "You can live in there. There's gas. There's a nice heater. There's a little kitchen, a bathroom, shower, nice bed. Why don't you come to the house, make you something, we can talk some more." So he does. And he smokes, and so we smoke with the pipe. And he told me more stories. It had to be around midnight. He goes, "Why don't you go to sleep? When the sun will come right in your window around 6, and that should be early enough for you to walk over." He goes, "I have this little putt-putt dirt bike. You can use that to drive over to back, the 10 miles back to your job, and you can stay as much as you want." And I said, "Okay." So for a week, I stayed every night and moved into that trailer. And then my Mexican brother showed up, and we moved into the power building and made it our own. But I still went back to Grandfather David every so often, and the spring got more and more, right? And so once it got pretty warm enough, he had a stream. He had a stream going through his property with nice trees, banyan trees. And so we made a camp, and so it was a camp, and so the Mexican guys slept there, and we also slept in our power building. And I was there for another 2 months until May came around, and we pretty much had finished our job, and the Mexican guys went back to Mexico City, and I went on to Los Alamos. And so, but I spent a good 3 months, from end of February to the end of, to the beginning of middle of May. Grandfather David. And I went through many, he says, "I have to make you, I have to give you shaman training. And, my shaman training took 40 years. I have a number of months to put you through the same thing. So it's going to be a little accelerated. So we did like things like, so there are many different things you go through, way more interesting and challenging than, going to college. Oh, college was so hard. People made fun of it. And the teachings I got, so it wasn't just grandfather David was always my grandfather, always sweet, loving. The other, spirit keepers, the other 10 guys who that spirit council, the highest of the high, in actuality, they were the lowest men on the totem pole because that on the totem pole, the most important folk are on the bottom. The most important shamanic spirit guides on the totem pole is the ant and the turtle. And that is what the totem pole is placed on. And they're the foundation of all of existence. Oh. Scam likely.
Hi.
No, it's still.
What do you need?
I have a Reuben, please?
Reuben?
Boom.
Yeah. You wanna stay here to go?
For here, please?
Oh, yeah.
Boop, 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 boop. Hey, buddy, I'm down in the valley. I'm over near Tanglewood, and I'm going to be over in your neighborhood in an hour. So I'll give you another call when I get there. You stay well, and see you tomorrow. I want to say it later, whichever one comes first. Later. Oh, that was somebody I said I'd give a call to. So I did. There you are. So I'll tell you about this one thing we did. It's called the Heart. And so they had different sites, just like the site that the Mexicans and I had on Grandfather David's property along the river that had the banyan trees, and we made a nice camp. They had camps everywhere. And they, spent the last 80 years making this, and their grandfathers before them had them, right? So, and this guy's grandson had a horse farm, and I had to do ceremony with a horse. And, everyone knew I came from New York City, so they thought I knew nothing about horses, but they didn't know that I grew up with horses at Mr. Anderson's estate.
Okay.
And my good buddy Nat was, horse goddess and taught me how to ride. And that I rode, race horses, gigantic, so the ponies they had were like half the size of the horses I would have ride. But they were okay. And so they, when I did this horse ceremony, and I did it with Grandfather David's grandson, he thought he'd get a giggle and give me an unbroken horse, a horse that no one even dared to get close to because it was such a pissed off horse. And, I kind of looked at the horse, so that's got to be your horse. Go over and say, put a saddle on that horse. And I looked at the horse. I said, no, you got any brushes and some carrots and sugar cubes? And he goes,
No, but we can.
and so, they looked at me funny. So I said, I went into the barn and I talked to the guy who had, ran the tack room. I said, so I need some, brushes and I need a bucket with some, oats in it and another bucket with water in it. And I need some carrots and sugar cubes. And the guy said, well, I got carrots. I don't have sugar cubes, but here's what you want. So I just one bucket, about 20 pounds of water, 20 pounds of oats. And I kind of went over to the horse and I stayed on this side of the fence. He was on that side. He came over and looked at me and I broke a little carrot and I put it, open palm with my thumbs and fingers out of the way. And that carrot looked at it and was like, I kept breaking up the carrot and giving him little bits, right? I kept chewing it up. And then he put his head over the fence and I started rubbing him behind his ears, and he kind of liked that. I took out the brush and I started, and his hair was all matted, and I just started brushing his hair, and he was like, and then I kind of went over. I still had a couple of carrots in my pocket, and I went over to the door, opened the door, walked in, closed the door, had the two buckets, put the bucket of oats over here, put the bucket of water over there, and stood like this. And he came over, he lapped up the water because no one had given him any water. He was really thirsty. Then he went over the oats, put his nose in that, kind of ate a few oats, looked at me, came over, did the carrot for him. And he really liked that. And then I brushed his whole body down. And then with the water that was left in the bucket, I put the brush in and then brushed him down with water. He really liked that, right? And I did his back, his neck, his everything, his legs, stayed away from the back of his legs. I didn't want the back of a horse because horses don't like you to get in the back. Anyway, and then I just stayed there and kept, brought the bucket of oats over to him and just kept rubbing, brushing his neck, and he really liked that. Just kept doing it for an hour. I did all of that, and then I had a bridle. I kind of just put it over his ears and let it hang on. I didn't put it in his mouth. I put the bit in his mouth, and he just kind of, he didn't get upset about it. And I said, "Can we try it in your mouth? Can we?" And he put it in his mouth, and then put it, tried it back there. And I said, "How's that feel?" Does it feel okay? You okay with that? Okay. I just kept rubbing him and brushing him with the bridle on. And then I had what is known as a harness. It's not a what you call it, a saddle. It's just a belt, right? Right. So I took that and just put it around him and tied it up. And not too tight, just so he could feel it around his body, and just left it there with the bridle in. And he right. Then I took the bridle off and brushed his hair again with that on there, and and then I went and got a blanket, put that over his back, put the cinch back on, put the bridle back on, took him over to the fence, tied just didn't tie, but threw the reins over the fence, and got up on the fence so he could easily get on his back and not put any stress on him. And I kind of eased myself on his back, and we just kind of trotted around that. And then I went over to where the gate was, still on his back, opened the gate, pushed it open, and just we trotted out, and then we just took off. I didn't wait for those guys, I just took off. And we rode and we rode. This horse had been wanting to run for the longest freaking time. He's just been in that, fenced in area, kicked it, and he just ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran and ran until we got to that river that went through Grandfather David's neck of the woods, and got off. And I took, the cinch off. I took the blanket off. I took the bridle out of his mouth, and I just hung him up on a tree. I said, "See, you're there, but you can." And I had a brush with me and a carrot with me, and then we went over to the into the shade where he could drink the water, and he drank the water, and I lying down on a thing, and he just stood there over me while I fell asleep. When I woke up, he was still there looking at me, right? So I got up, and the sun was going down, and I put the blanket on, put the cinch on, put the bridle in, and we ran 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 back to the barn, and I put him in a stall, right? And I cleaned it, I put him, we went into the barn. I just let him stand there, and I mucked out a stall that no one had used. I put totally fresh hay in, and I put a water, a bucket of water and a bucket of oats. And then the people came out. I put him in the stall, and he hated the stall. He kicked when they tried to put him in the stall. He kicked at the people. He kicked at the stall, and he went in there, and he basically lied down, right? And people were like, and Grandfather was there, and he was like, "Okay, you passed the horse test." And his grandson, but he didn't, he just, my grandfather looked at his grandson, "What are you, nuts? This is a horse you couldn't even get close to. Here's a city boy from New York, and he's totally broken that horse without breaking it, that horse is his. That horse is him. He has done what every native person who's ever had a horse has done, become one with the animal. Now, that was a great lesson for me, because no one taught, I just treated that horse like my dogs, right? That horse to me was a big dog. I communicated to it like it was a dog, right? And I'm the alpha dog. It loved someone to take care of it, to be nice to it, to communicate to it, to understand what it wanted, how to be treated and respected it. That's a horse, And if you do that to a horse, that horse will be the most honorable, close thing you could have. So the heart song test was grandfather and I got on the horses and we rode out into the mesa and we went to another mountain, another sacred mountain in the chain, right? And so we got there and there was a camp with a big tent and a bunch of trucks and the other elders were there and they were the fire, they had a tent that you could have a fire in, and they had a fire burning in the tent, and they were, eating and having a good old time and playing cards, and basically, we sat down, we broke bread, and I said, and I had studied, and heart song basically is you're given a task, right? That is very trying, very difficult, and all the time you have the drum in your heart, and that drum keeps you safe and sound. And whenever the heart song, the drum is you're conscious, aware of the heart song. It keeps you safe, no matter what you are, no matter what situation you're in, right? So. Anyway, so when we rode across the mesa, it took us 2 hours to get. We didn't have a car. We rode our horses there. Basically, and the camp was at the base of this big, tall mountain, right? And very rocking, not a lumpy, grassy thing, but you had to climb up this mountain if you're going to go up it. So when we rode there, a thunderstorm was rolling in, but it hadn't gotten there yet. And when you're out in the desert and on a mesa, you can see weather way far away, right? So we were riding towards the storm, but it wasn't above us. There were still stars up there. We get there, we see the boys in the tent. They have the fire going. They have food. We eat, we drink, we talk, we smoke. And then they said, okay, it's time. And so they basically, we walk outside and the storm is almost there. And they explained I will climb up this mountain to right almost to the top. There is a little outcropping, and not so much a cave, but a indention, right? And they said, you go up there, you will find, a buffalo skin, and there's some wood, and there is some other things that you can drink and eat. They're ceremonial; they're not substance, right? And so, and then you go up there and meditate and listen to the heart song, right? So, anyway, we got at the base, and they started another fire, right? And grandfather gives me this little pack, and he shows me that there's a can in there, and in the can there is a bag of sawdust. And I smell it, and it's got kerosene. And he used to call this a magic. When we would start fires, I was trying to rub sticks against it. No. And he had this little sack, and he'd build the fire, and twigs and leaves and bigger limbs on top of that, and then he would sprinkle this sawdust with the gasoline in it, and then he would put bigger logs on top of that, sprinkle more sawdust. He would squeeze the bottle of kerosene, and he'd squeeze that, and then inside there's a butane, lighter, and he goes, "This is buffalo farts." So he would, big lighter, click, the fire would go like that. So he gave me a little pack with his little magic bag in it of that and a few other things, and he says, okay. And so what you have to do is, so there's a big fire burning right at the base, and there's this path going, and it's like this kind of path going up a mountain, up to where this, maybe a quarter mile up this mountain, there's this like outcropping in this, not quite a cave that you go into, but a thing that would have something come over you, right? And he said, there's, there's buffalo skin and there's wood, and they gave me a torch, and they said you have to take the fire up there, and start a fire with this torch. That's part of the ceremony. And grandfather said, now it's advisable that you don't let this go out, but the storm is coming quickly, and it's going to rain torrentially, and the torch may go out, and that's why I gave you my little magic bag. It's not a problem to use that, but you're going to have to use it in the proper way, and you'll have to go into state to know what that is, and then you have to stay in conscious awareness. For this, from the moment you leave us, you have to be in conscious awareness. You have to be, know what your 20 is and what your 360 is. Once you, right now we're all going to chant and go into conscious intent of the ceremony, right? And this is to bring you into shamanic, the frame, And so basically we did that. When the fire is burning, we are, chanting, and everyone has a drum, and I don't. And so I have to be bare-chested, right? And, they paint on my chest, and they do ceremony, and we, I'm meditating, they're chanting, they're drumming, right? And I put the torch in the fire, and I start. So I have to climb up with this, torch in my hand, so not having two hands. And as soon as I get about 5 feet up there, it torrentially rains, and I look back, and they're all gone. No, they've already gone back to the teepee. Now there's one guy who's outside under, they had a tarp up over the front part of the. It wasn't a heapie; it was more like a hogan, and so, but it was a thing that you could have a fire. So, I'm looking over, and it's raining so hard, it's put that big fire, and I'm looking at my torch, and it's about to go out, and I haven't even started to going up the quarter mile, so I kind of go, okay. So I kind of, it's no longer a blaze. It's like just a flicker. So I just kind of stick it. And there's I'm not like up to this. I'm like more like I'm this. And there's, dirt around. So I just stick it in the dirt, right? And I pull out. There's a rag in there that's dry, that doesn't have kerosene on it or anything, but it's dry. And I wrap the torch up in that, and I stick it in my bag. So now I have two hands, right? Because I'm allowed to, go into state and do what's right. So and it's raining, and lightning bolts like hitting near me, not like just up in the air, but like, right? And I'm climbing up through the lightning bolts, right? And I look down, and there's still the one guy, boom, 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 doing the hard song, not like that fast, like boom, 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 right? And through the thunder, it's getting, but I can still feel it in my heart. So I go all the way up there, and I make it, which is like a miracle, because it took forever, right? Who knows how long it was, but lightning bolts everywhere, torrential rain. It's getting cold. It's starting to get like icy, right? So I'm like, because I'm in the mountains now, so I'm like, and I'm like crawling up there, and I get up there, and I go into that, and I am drenched, but my shirt, I have no shirt, and so I go, you know what? I'm just going to take all my freaking clothes off. I'm gonna, first I'm going to find this buffalo skin, and it's in a, it's covered by a big tarp. So I take the big tarp, do this, put it on the ground, and it's dry, and I kind of put it up, and I lay the buffalo skin down, right, and I, get myself so I can pull the whole buffalo skin over me, and then pull the tarp over that, And right in all of that tarp, there's a place where there's a fire that's over the outcropping, and it's dry there. It's kind of, it doesn't. The water isn't coming into the tunnel. It goes down. So where I'm going to build the fire is dry, and it's torrentially raining, and it's dry there. So I put all the dry wood. I put all the kindling inside that. I take grandfather's magic bag out, sprinkle the sawdust with the gasoline. I do that, and then squirt the kerosene on it. Then I put some kerosene on the torch, and I take the big lighter, right, say a prayer, light the fire, right, and I have this big pile of wood, and I just keep putting on it, and and it's like only about a foot from where I'm going to be covered by the buffalo skin and tarp, and so I take all my clothes off, right, and roll them up, put them in a dry spot, and that's the fire is going up, heating everything around you. The thermal heat is coming this way, the smoke is going that way. It's quite actually comfortable, right? And so I put my clothes up here on this little nook where the heat is hitting it. So, my socks and my pants and my underpants are drying, and my shoes. I take my shoes and I kind of put them up there too, and I get covered up by the buffalo skin and I go into state and meditate, and I hear the drum in my heart. Boom, 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 boom. And I just sit there and I meditate, and then I kind of go into state, and I go down into the tent, and they're all kind of laughing and all the rest. And then all of a sudden they become quiet, and they clear a space around the fire, and they sit down and go into meditation. They pass the pipe, and I see stories fly through my mind of the pony warrior, of the when the ponies came to the Hopi, when the Spanish came, and all of the stories of European massacres and the Hopis' trials, tribulations, and all of that is just going through me, and I hear it in my heart song, boom, 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 right? And then I kind of go into a deep trance and fall asleep, but not lying down, just like sitting up in posture. And I go into the stars, and I go above the earth, right? And I go to where the great fire, the twin flame is, and all the sparks of creation are coming up through my experience, through my heart. So, John is still the one present thing that's connecting me to the earth. And all of a sudden, this bright light just comes right into me, super bright light, and my eyes open, and it's the sun coming up over the other end of the mesa, right up there. And it was like, and the whole mesa was just this line of the sun coming straight at me. And it went right in me, and it sent the energy all through me, right? And cleared out everything from my top of my head to the tips of my toes. And my lungs filled with the most cleanest, freshest air because of just all that lightning and all that rain and the sun. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and it was warm. I mean, it was just radiating straight at me. And I kind of put the tarp and the buffalo and back, and it was like the most amazing easy chair. And I just sat there and looked at all of creation below me, right? And I could still feel the drum. Someone was playing the heart song down below. So I felt it. And grandfather said in his act there was a nice bottle of healing water. I opened it up, and it was the coolest, cleanest, freshest, most amazing liquid I had ever drank. And I woke up. I woke up. I was present. I was aware. I was conscious of everything. And so I put my pants back on. I put my socks on, put my shoes on, and I came down up the hill, and I climbed down. And instead of like doing this, I was standing up, walking down. Right? I grabbed my bag over my shoulder, and I walked down. And you know, I came to, um, into the site, and they were all waiting for me. They were all, sitting on the ground, facing up there. They saw me walk down the hill instead of like, oh, and they were all smiling. And I came in, and they just patted me on the back. And it was like, they didn't say anything except, "You're one of us now. You're the young one, the young one of us." You know. So that's when I understood the shamanic frame. And that's what I talk to you about all the time. Let's see what you guys are saying. Yes, I would say so, your mother. But, I just was trying to move the cursor up, and all the little three dots came around everybody. It's like, Sandra, morning, Bob. Oh, Andre, Jamie Hilliard. Ice must have been melted. Yep, it melted. Once it got rainy and above 50, it all went away. But it took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of being iced in there was pretty ice-based, John. It's all. Yeah, exactly. Uh, and he blames me for everything. But, that's projection. It's straight up out of Freud. Yeah. Boy. Well, there's no breakup, meaning John is my friend, still is my friend. I still care about him. There's no breaking up. I just won't be there when I leave. I'm still not giving up on him, but I no longer will be there. My prayers will be for him. My best wishes will be for him. And the time I have left there, I will do my best to assist, because once I'm gone, I know I have done my best. I don't have to go back. I don't have. I mean, I may go back and visit John, but I don't. So like the bag that grandfather gave me, he had me keep it, and it was up at the school, and that's another one of those things that went missing. Right? But see, all these things that went missing, my grandparents' photos of when they got married in the 1880s and 1890s, their wedding certificates, and the box that the old crone gave me, all the thumb drives that Dragon gave me, um, all of those things that went missing. Um, the bag that grandfather gave me, they all went missing up at the school when I finally, you know, backed up, 28th time John threw me out. And I was going for a good long while. And he kind of went through all my stuff. And, you know, um, stuff doesn't matter. The thing that matters is the energetic connectivity, the memory. That's what memories are about. Memories about the connectivity, right? The presence, the love. And so, you know, that's what it was. That's what I still have, even though I don't have any of that stuff, physical stuff anymore. It's okay, because the real essence was the love that was given to me, right? So, and like I said, John is my friend. I'll never give up on him. But this is, my farewell tour to Roanoke. And John's not the only one I've gone through the ceremony with in these last months. I came here 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So that's like, November, December, January, February. I've been here 4 months, and you know, um, I've tied up all my loose ends, and I'll come back. you know, I will come back and visit John if he wants me back, but not stay there, just visit, right? And you know, because the real thing I'm connected to. I mean, he's my friend. I don't give up on my friends, but the real connective tissue of that place is the hill. Meaning, John, it's quite interesting. John has let all of the ceremonial paths out of there to just grow over. He's thrown garbage on all of them, meaning where the fire pit is, he's built a wall of garbage, right? And he said, I want you to, take this stuff and take it down. And then when I started taking it down, he screamed at me, like this morning when I was taking the garbage down. So, I'm just here to serve, right? And I do my best. And I don't really get upset about it. I mean, when he was screaming at me Saturday, I mean, he was demonically vile, screaming at me, I'm going to kill you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, just the most, and saying the most vile things. And then his sister called up, and I tried to be nice to her, and then he screamed and yelled at her and told her to die. He said all the mean, vile things to his sister that he said to me. And, later on, she said, I'm sorry. Now, the reason why he looks the way he does is because of all the cortisol that is rushing through his body when you scream like that. It takes, when you're, the thing, this is going to hurt me more, when your father's going to spank you, it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. And that's what he's talking about, right? And so John does this. And then what he's, the way he's ignored his family, it's so hard to go to Texas. These are all, he is, as Anthony calls him, the people's saint of truth. No kidding. He's like right there. You can see it. It's like right there. And in real essence, he's doing shamanic ceremony of clearing. And if he could put love behind it rather than fear, he would be amazing. That's why he has great potential. That's why I don't give up on him, because he has great potential. And so I do my best. That's all I can do. It's my best. I'm not perfect. Can't do miracles. And when he goes, the angels are talking to me, and they're saying you're so evil and blah 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 blah. Well, if any angel is talking to you like that, who is the first angel? Satan. Lucifer. That's So if you hear any voices, that's who's talking to you. Because real angels from love's co-creation show up. Are in person. They don't just talk to you. They are there. In the Bible, all the angels didn't like whisper. They were bang right there. There was no doubt. They're what their presence was love's co-creation. Anyway, so that's what this is all about. I've talked almost 2 hours now, so I have got things to do. So I'll talk to you guys around 5:00. Okay. So remember. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Love it if you would put something in my PayPal. I could really, really, really use it, because I've been spending money and John, you're costing me money, Yeah, but I'm buying his food and running his errands, and, So, and he keeps saying, okay, I'll pay you $200 to go do this, And he, Sunday he wanted me to take him to his parents. I'm sure I'll do that. I'll pay $300. And so I cleaned my car out so he could get in my front seat. And then he didn't say anything. And then later on the evening, he came down and screamed at me for the food I gave him in the morning. You gave me used food. No, I cooked it straight up fresh that morning. What I did have was these pancakes I made the day before. They were in the toaster oven. We didn't have bread because he'd eaten. Every time I buy bread, he just eats all of it up, right? And I come down and this is missing, that missing, So. And, he gave me all this coffee, or, he gave me a lot of coffee to hide. I hid it, I came back and looked to where it was, and it was gone. I said, John, so you gave me this, you said you didn't want to drink coffee again. And well, yes, I came down and got it out of where you hid it, and then I brought it back down and you hid it someplace else. I said, no. So, well, you forgot where you hid it. It's just like... unbelievable. And it's, and you can see the rage in him, because it's that demonic side. There's his line. This is angel, sweet, kind child, generous. Then this anger over here, and you know, when I worked as a shrink, and I worked with loads of people. Whatever their issue, whatever, how many years it took, or whatever cathartic situation occurred to them, you had to illuminate that, and it would take you almost as much time to walk them back to where they had gotten. You can't fix people like that. And people who have let that, you know, fester in them for so long, that's when it's difficult. But I have my three rules, right? Doctor, do no harm. Don't get involved unless you have a workable exit strategy. You're there to get the innocence out of it. So I've done no harm to John or anyone around him. I've only done good. The workable exit strategy I have to get John out of harm's way is I've been exercising it. Um, and the other one is don't get involved unless you can experience something that you can learn from to do better. And boy, I've learned so much from John. That's a great blessing that I've gotten from him. Right? Why do you do this? I learned so much. I've learned amazing things from John. Right? So I feel very blessed. Right? And it's not, I came here because the winter was so cold. No, I would have gone to Florida. I place, like I said, there are friends of mine who have, the Al Bob Memorial Sanctuary for me to come to. And so I still have friends down the Keys. I still have friends in South Florida. I have friends in New Orleans. I have friends all over the place, right? Down in the southern parts. So I could go there. And maybe next winter I will. But we'll see how it goes. And one day at a time, and I'll see you guys a little later. What else are you saying here? Thank you. But remember, my selfless kindness, I do have a ulterior motive because what makes me the most happy is when I make others happy. So as I see the effect to the contrary, it lightens my heart. It makes me, why do you think I survived death? Because of you guys. You're a lucky guy. You chased her and she caught you. Yeah. You're in love at least 10 times a day. You are the lucky guy. Jamie, from now on, your name is LG. Lucky guy. Trees, anything real. Yep, exactly. Beautiful. Yep. So that's why I do this, you guys. You just light my heart. Living in Irish mountains. Yep. Yep. I was there, buddy. I know that. I could have been there, but I wouldn't be the guy I am today if I stayed. I'd be a different guy. Yeah. Yeah. See, you guys heal each other. Yeah, no buffering here. Yes, John has the best internet, and that it buffers for me is, I'm sure, and that all the other problems I have with all my electronics, I'm sure it has a lot to do with the electronic situation at the school. We try. Yeah, but see, it's when you are in service to love's co-creation, there is no downside, right? So it's all good. Yep, love you all. Me too. Love you too, Lana. Jane, yes. So I'll see you guys, around 5 or 6 o'clock. Okay. And okay, so I'm gonna sign off here. So I love you guys. Let's say a little prayer for the day. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, as was in the beginning, is now, ever shall be, world without end. Love you guys. See you later. Boop-a-doop-boop-boo. Boop-a-doop-beep-beep.